Hey there, grumpy old fart here. I'm doing an advanced an advanced Dungeons and Dragons advice video when annoying becomes wrong. Uh, this is about players who. It's one thing to make a joke and to be annoying. It's another thing to take it to a whole new level of annoying. But when it starts hampering the gameplay, then there's an issue. This is for about troublesome troublesome players, I guess, for lack of a better word. Before I get into this video, I've asked you to please, if you enjoy my content, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Remember, I welcome your comments, even if you disagree with me. Also, I'd like to plug my books if you don't mind. If you enjoy a good book, check out my author page on Amazon. My pen name is H.L. Anderson. You can find all of my books there. I like to think I write good stories that make you think. I've written a 3-book series called Drifters. It's science fiction western. I wrote a political fantasy called The Righteous President. I wrote a fun story about a house in New Orleans where the monsters all hang out. It's called The House Off Farrago Road. And I wrote a pair of books. The first one is Vanguard 1. The sequel is Task Force Terminus. It's a futuristic science fiction war type, military type. And I like to think that I write books that make people think. So there you go. All right, on with the video. In Dungeons & Dragons, no matter which edition you play, there are players who will do everything within their power to undermine your game. And it's not just in D&D, it's the same in virtually every tabletop role-playing game anybody would ever run. I used to run a Heroes Unlimited game, and one of the players made it impossible. He questioned every statement and ruling I made. He argued every description. He even complained that the villain's vehicle was red instead of blue, and he made sure everyone heard every argument we had. After the second game, I had to ask him not to come back because we couldn't get anything done, you know. Another player in one of my advanced Dungeons and Dragons games, for whatever reason, fixated on his half-orc's penchant to have sex with anyone or anything he could. Anytime the group entered a town or encountered anyone on the road, the love machine flipped on and his PC disappeared. He even disappeared during combat to do this. When he began pressuring both of my female players for said activities, I asked him to leave. A little bit I can see, because, back in the day, most role-playing players, most gamers of tabletop role-playing were kind of nerds. So, yeah, they fixated on that. But we've gone past that, folks. And pressuring other players for that, no, it's not right. I had another player in my advanced Dungeons & Dragons game that had a portable hole. The group pulled their money and stocked it with provisions and gear. Then the player started charging the group to retrieve their gear. He called it rent. The group eventually just killed the player character and took the portable hole. The player got mad and did not return. And, good riddance. That's usually stuff like that can be handled through the course of the game and in between players, and that's a good thing. Still, another player in my advanced Dungeons & Dragons game insisted on stealing from everyone. Eventually, he got caught, and the group dealt with him accordingly. A player in my White Wolf game made a practice of betraying the other player characters and setting them up for the villains. One total party kill later, and he was laughing about it. My other players told me that if he returned, they would not, and I can't blame them. One of my players wanted to run Vampire. This one is unsettling for me because it's the only time I've ever done LARP, live action role playing. One of my players wanted to run Vampire. We agreed, and he pre-made characters and chose, quote unquote, chose randomly for who got which character. We were all adults. Okay, nobody was under the age of 18. We were all in our 20s or older. My character was a hedonistic and sadistic bastard. His wife, this guy's wife, has got a submissive and eternally horny nymph. Again, you can't make that shit up. Then, during the course of the game, this guy who was running the game, he managed to maneuver mine and her character, our two-player characters, into a warehouse just as the sun was coming up. He separated us from the group. We went into the other room. We turned on the TV. We were sitting there watching TV while he worked with the other players. One of the other players came in, told us that he had gotten mad and left because he thought we were in there fooling around for real. That dude was a nutball. We thought he ran a really great game. Turns out he lived in that world in his head, and he was really bad. Okay, he did not come back to my games. That was the only time I've ever played LARP live action role play, and I'm never doing it again. It's possible that people can do it and not get an experience like this, but you have that experience and it kind of turns you off. You know what I'm saying? Years ago, I had a player in my Advanced Dungeons and Dragons game who was gay. When the rest of the group eventually found out, most were okay with it. Then there was David, who insisted on berating him and making snide remarks. 10 minutes of that was all I could handle. I kicked his ass out. David was gone. He never played in my games again. Had a player in my recon game who insisted on dealing heroin and sexually assaulting every female civilian non-player character in the area. The other players made it clear that that type of behavior was unacceptable. When he did not change his behavior and actually started getting worse, the other players solved the issue with a trio of fragmentation grenades. Yeah, fragged him. And rightly so. When my girlfriend at the time sat in to play in my Advanced Dungeons and Dragons game, one of the other players began making snide comments and insinuating that her character would excel and have no problems because, as he put it, quote, she's fucking the dungeon master. Yeah, I grabbed him and physically threw him out of my house. He never came back. As a dungeon master, you'll have all kinds of players. The vast majority of them are going to be stand-up people with good character. Most people are in these games. Once in a while, you're going to run across a player who, for whatever reason, he just rubs everybody the wrong way. Some are going to be innocently and honestly weird. I've been accused of that a time or two, and these players are not malicious or bad. They just don't know their actions are abrasive. Sometimes just a quick word will fix it. Some of these players are under the misconception that conflict within the group is normal. They've been in a bad group and they have learned bad habits. If you feel the player has something positive to bring to the game, then it falls to you to try and correct the bad behavior. Some of these players have no respect for you or for your game, and they are intentionally trying to derail it. These players need to be ejected immediately before they drive off your other players, or before they rub off on your other players, because there's an old saying, one bad apple will ruin the barrel, and that's not wrong here. Some of these players don't know that their annoying behavior is detrimental. They think they're being cute or joking, and this type of situation is best settled within the group. The other players are quite capable of dealing with the bad behavior. If they are unwilling to do so for whatever reason, then it may fall to the dungeon master to fix the situation. But be very, very careful not to discourage the player or drive them from your game. They are good people who just have no social grace. It is correctable. It's actually fairly common in our world. People nowadays, they spend a lot of time behind their keyboard, so they don't know much about social graces. Finally, some players just want your world to burn, and they want you to burn with it. These are bad people who delight in causing problems and taking shots at you. They need to be expelled immediately with all haste. And spare the kid gloves. They don't deserve them. People show up to play a game to have fun. If a player shows up to ruin everybody's fun just for spite, yeah, they don't deserve the kid gloves. Yeah. It falls to the dungeon master to determine which type of player that these are. If you have a troublemaker in your group, you got to figure out which one it is. If it's correctable and it's not a big deal, you know, and a little joking around is fine. I got that, no problem. We're here to have fun, right? But there are players who are just bad, and you got to get rid of them. There are players who, for whatever reason, they think that the entire game is about them, and they take over the game, and that's not good either. So, but again, that might be correctable. You got it's up as a dungeon master. It's up to you to determine which category the player falls in, and take the appropriate action, or let the players do it. Either way. At any rate, hope this finds everybody well. You folks have a good one. God bless one and all.